Hey, it's Molly. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. As I wanted to do a quick tutorial for you on the lunar nodes, I wanted to show you the two different ways that they are calculated and how we track them and how it's different, because this is a question that people often ask. What's the difference between the true node and the mean node? And I wanted to show you how we determine those energies as they move through the lunar node cycle. So we always have a north node and a south node. They are always exactly opposite in astrology signs. They begin at 29 degrees and move back to 0 degrees. And we're able to determine where they're at based on an ephemeris. And that's what you're looking at here. So clearly what you're seeing are the energies of October 2023. And the ephemeris shows us here at the very top. These are the planets. Let me clear that up. So these are the planets here. We got the sun, the moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, so on. On your left-hand side of the screen, these are the days and dates. So October 1st was Sunday, October 2nd was a Monday, and so on. Once you start to understand the ephemeris, it's really easy to look at it. It starts to make sense. It just can take a minute to get oriented into this graph and everything that's on it. But I want to bring your attention here to the two nodes, the two actual north nodes as they show up on this ephemeris. So here in yellow, I am highlighting the true north node. And then in green, we're going to do the mean node. Now you can tell that they have the same glyph at the top, right? You see that up here? Except the true node has a T in it, a T. And that's how you can tell it is the true node. So the true node is where the energies are. It's where they're currently tracking. And as we go down this column here, you'll see that we started October with the north node, the true north node, at 24 degrees direct. That's what that D means, 54 minutes. And then as we progressed through the month, you could see then when it stopped and went retrograde, stopped again and went direct, then went retrograde, so on and so forth. So the true node is how the energy is moving in an overall backwards fashion, but it is calculated as starting and stopping, changing directions. Honestly, it reminds me of how my grandma used to drive, how she would slam on the brakes and like your head would hit the dashboard and then she'd accelerate like crazy and your head would hit the headrest. Okay, that's the true north node. It's driving like my grandma. Start, stop, forward, backwards. So there can be an abrupt energy shift there, right? As you're seeing how the north node goes forward, stops, and reverses. Now you'll also notice here throughout all of October, it is at 24 degrees because of the inconsistency of the motion. So even though it started the month at 24 degrees, that's in Aries, 54 minutes, you can see it ended the month 24 degrees, 52 minutes. So throughout the month of October, that true north node didn't change degrees, it just changed minutes. And you can see too, when you look down here at the minute mark, 54, 55, 58, right? It's going forward and then backwards, forward and backwards. Okay, so some of this is very obvious to some of you, but I know that people learn differently. So I wanted to be thorough in the understanding of how the true north node starts and stops. Now we move to the green column. And in the green column, this is the mean node, and it's calculated as the average speed, the average way that the node is moving in reverse. So you can see here that it begins the month at 25 degrees of Aries, 45 minutes, and ended the month of October at 24 degrees and 10 minutes of Aries. And notice in this column, in the green column, it's consistently moving in reverse. Because again, the nodes always move in reverse as their overall trajectory. So the mean node is calculating the average speed and average way that it's moving in reverse. But you can tell, obviously, that there are two different numbers here. There's two different degree points that are coming up as both calculations are moving in reverse. So now we're looking at November. And again, you can tell here with the yellow highlighted column that November began with that true north node at 24 degrees of Aries retrograde. And then by the end of November was at 24 degrees, 2 minutes of Aries. And as you look down that yellow column, you can see the D and the R, which again stands for direct and retrograde. And then you compare it to the green column, the mean north node, which began the month at 24 Aries 6 minutes, and then ends the month at 22 Aries 34 minutes. So you see how there's a pacing that's prevalent with the mean north node because of that consistency in the tracking, which is how it's different than the true north node. So for 2 months, the true north node was at 24 degrees of Aries, October and November, whereas for those same 2 months, the mean north node was progressively, consistently moving backwards. And so this is where in astrology, now people ask, well, which one's more accurate? Well, you can use both. You know, the true north node is called the true north node for a reason. And not everything in astrology is about things being the same or using the average. There are inconsistencies. There are things that don't just flow evenly. So when we're looking at the north nodes and how they're calculated, you could find that the true north node is resonating with you, or you could find that the mean north node is resonating with you. They are both correct. They are both accurate in terms of how they are calculated. So basically we had for October and November more of a focal point on that 24 degrees of Aries. So if you had a planet or point at 24 degrees of Aries, that could have been something that you were really feeling, that the true north node was really working with you deeply in those 2 months, as it was activating that 24 degree point for a long time, over 2 months. And so the true north node moved slower while the mean north node kept a consistent pace. And now here, let's take a look at the energies in December 2023, where we see that we start the month with the true north node at 23 degrees, 55 minutes of Aries, and the mean north node begins the month at 22 degrees, 31 minutes of Aries. And as we track them throughout the month, you can see that now that true north node is actually picking up the pace, 23, 22 to 21 degrees, right? So it was hanging out at 24 degrees for a few months. Then it started to move faster, whereas this mean north node is still consistent in how it moves forward. So here in December, both of them are moving about 3 degrees, 23, 22, 21 degrees. They're still in different places for the most part for the majority of the month. And then you can see how their averages meet up here at 21 degrees for a few days. So they're both going in the same direction. They both have the same function and energy. They're just moving at different paces. And so I feel like when that true north node is hanging out at certain degree points for longer periods of time, it's more pronounced energy. Again, especially if you have planets or points there, wherever that true north node is spending more time, it's working with you more deeply. And we're looking at the north node here. So we know that if the north node is in Aries, the opposite is the south node in Libra. So the north node is showing you where you're growing, what you're developing, what you're learning to do in a new way, how you are supported in moving out of a comfort zone, where the openings are, the new opportunities, especially in Aries, which is about a new start, a new chapter, a new part of your energy coming up and coming forth. So in Aries, there's a lot of new. And then the opposite point of the south node in Libra is then showing you what is finishing out, what's closing out. Also, where you're looking to reassess, perhaps looking at what you want to give new life to or move away from. That south node is often about completions or where their energy is leaving, what we've graduated from. It can also be where we're really comfortable and things just feel easier as well. So when you are looking at the two calculations of the true north node and the mean north node, I do feel it's important to note when the true north node, again, is hanging out there for a longer period of time. But it's also important to look at how the mean north node is consistently tracking and consistently moving us through these degree points. So now when we look at January 2024, we can take a look again at both of the true nodes. And you can see here that the true north node starts at 21 degrees and ends the month at 17 degrees. So that's a faster moving true north node where it's basically picking up the pace of where it was slow back in October and November. And then here we have good old reliable mean north node, keeping the pace, going steady and strong, still traveling through those degree points in a more consistent, even manner. And now here we are in February 2024. Again, that true north node is moving through more degree points, although you can see it is going slower, whereas the mean node continues on. Now you'll notice in March, we have the beginning of the next period where that true north node hangs out for an extended amount of time at a particular degree point, and it will be the 15 degree point, 15 degrees of Aries. And so it begins to stay there and slows down around March, whereas the mean north node still consistent. And now I'm going to give you a pop quiz. The pop quiz is not, why does my grandmother drive like the true north node? Honestly, don't get in the car with her. You will get sick. Okay, no. You're noticing now here in April, that true north node hanging out at 15 degrees, right? Let me get my highlighter back. Okay, so 15 degrees for all of April. The true north node, right? And then, as always, there is the mean north node in green. So here's the pop quiz. What are you associating, or can you associate with the true north node spending more time in 1 degree point? And there's something happening during March and April, just like it happened 6 months prior. And if you are yelling eclipses at your computer screen or at your device, you are correct. You win all the prizes. Yes, eclipses happen when the true north node is moving slowly. Isn't that fascinating? Yes, because astrology is endlessly awesome. So that's something to understand about how even the eclipses occur and how these energies are calculated and how they show up. And then we can start to see things as, all right, now that doesn't mean that the eclipses are happening at 15 degrees. In fact, they're not. On April 8th, the eclipse is at 19 degrees of Aries. And then we actually have the Libra lunar eclipse occurring in March. Okay, but it is an interesting trend to note that when we have this true north node moving very slowly. It coincides with when the eclipses occur. And so now I'm going to just go through the months here rather quickly because you get the point of how the true north node moves at its own pace that can be irregular. It has an irregular elliptical, an irregular orbit, and the mean north node remains consistent. So then we could actually just keep moving through this ephemeris here until we get to the next pair of eclipses coming up. And you know what that means? The true north node is moving slowly. So here in September 2024, when we're going to have the beginning of another pair of eclipses, we can see that the true north node is at 6 degrees. I know my lines aren't straight. It's because I'm drawing with a mouse. Those of you who take my class, you've heard me say that 1,000,000 times. The true north node hanging out at that degree point, 6 degrees, during eclipses. But that doesn't mean the eclipses are happening at that degree point. But it's just part of how the energy works and how it's irregular. So I hope this has been interesting. I hope this has shown you the differences between how the nodes of fate are calculated. And again, both are accurate. Both are accurate. So looking at September 2024, if you have any planets or points at 6 degrees of Aries, then the true north node is going to be working with that energy for a few months. And so here we are, October 2024, 6 degrees of Aries throughout the month. So we know that that true north node will be spending just over 2 months at 6 degrees of Aries, which means the south node will be at 6 degrees of Libra for a few months as well. And this could explain too why some things are bigger for you, why you could feel redirection in your life. You could have a sense of a lot is going on, a lot is opening up when the lunar nodes, the nodal axis is working with you and these degree points. Because with astrology, the more you know your chart and these degree points, the more specific and personal the energies are. And of course, it's even more personal for you if you have your natal north node or south node in Aries or Libra, or any important planets or points in Aries or Libra. And I cover all of this in one of my courses, which is where we talk about these nodes of fate as they move through these points in your chart. So come over and check that out, especially if you want to learn more about this, about these cycles in your chart, in your world, in your life, what it's opening up for you, what you're meant to step into and move towards, the new chapters that are beginning, as well as understanding, again, what's completing with the South Node in Libra. So I hope this has been interesting and educational. I hope this has helped you understand more about the lunar nodes and how they move. And I hope it's also something that you can relate to your own chart, as that is how astrology comes alive, and it's something that you can live and experience with greater consciousness. So as always, thank you so much for joining me here. I'll be back on YouTube with another video soon.